Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the MTG Goldfish Podcast, episode 109, your weekly podcast covering everything Magic the Gathering related. You can find us on Google Play, iTunes, mtggoldfish.com, and now on YouTube. So, hello, YouTube. Joining me, as always, Richard, the owner of MTG Goldfish. How are you, Richard?
Hey, what's up, guys?
What is up? Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, our resident jank brewer and all-around content creator for Magic the Gathering. Seth, how's it going?
Doing well. How are you guys?
Doing well. And myself, Chaz, just all-around content creator for Magic the Gathering, focusing on the financial aspect. So let's just jump right in. We have actually a really awesome podcast this week. We got a bunch of stuff literally right before the cast. So we have full art lands were confirmed for Amonkhet outside of the promos that were going to be given out at FNM or leagues. These will be inserted one in every 4 packs, roughly, that they said on the website, and in other products. So we can only speculate as what those other products may be. We had some awesome art accompanying all these product images for Amonkhet, and as well as Modern Masters 2017, where we got to see Stoic Angel, Domri Raid, and Grizzlebrand on the packaging of the packs, and also some new art highlighting the box art. We have some fish mail to address. We have the GPs to address. We have Magic Digital Next as a term that was now made available to us through an article that we wanted to discuss. And we're going to be introducing a small segment when we can. We like to provide different, content for everyone that listens to the podcast. So this is going to be Goldfishing, and it's really just Seth, Richard, and I talking about basically anything that we want to Magic the Gathering related, just a kind of casual talk that we can just kind of fool around and, be really relaxed. And so we wanted to at least give that segment to the listeners that sometimes don't want to always hear about everything, all this news that may not be as positive as we would hope. So let's just jump right in. Full art lands and the packaging for Amonkhet and Modern Masters 2017. Take it away, Seth.
All right, so we just got this announced this morning. It came out in an article, and it was some of this stuff was kind of hinted at over the weekend. There was a toy fair where Wizards apparently had a booth, but the big news is we are getting full art lands in Amonkhet, sort of. So there's a cycle of full art lands, and they're actually really sweet. They remind me of the Guru lands. They're not quite as awesome, but they each have kind of the same background art, but they're in different colors. The thing is, you get one in every 4 packs, so they're almost like rare lands in some way. Rare basic lands, as weird as that sounds. And then there are more lands in the set, which I'm assuming are not full art. So 3 out of every 4 packs, you'll get a normal land. 1 in 4, you'll get a full art land. And then they also said they'll show up in other places as well. As far as Modern Masters, we didn't get much information. We're pretty much going off the packaging, but the fact that Domri Raid, Stoic Angel, and Grizzlebrand were on the packaging art is pretty suggestive that they're in the set. I don't know if there's ever been a time where they've used card art on the packaging and then not put the card in the set. So I think we can count those as sort of unofficial, official spoilers of those 3 cards, and we'll have to wait and see as far as what else there is in the set.
Richard, what do you think?
I love the new Liliana art. They released the Liliana and Gideon Planeswalker arts for the intro packs. So they took out the text, so we don't know what the cards do. Probably something bad, but the art looks amazing. They released some of the key art for the characters in Amonkhet. Liliana, I'm not biased at all, again, looks awesome. But they show some of the Amonkhet gods, like the cat thing, and I don't know what this is, a swan, like a metallic swan, and a lizard. People are going to butcher me for my lack of knowledge of Egyptian mythology. I'm sure these guys have names, but the gods look pretty sweet. They're all metallic-y and shiny, and I'm hyped. I'm hyped for new gods in Amonkhet. I wonder if they'll go Theros route, make them indestructible and, make them actually godlike, or are they just going to be legendary creatures? But that's pretty hype. Full art lands, I'm over full art lands. I don't know. These don't do anything for me anymore. Lands are lands. I think I got over flooded in Zendikar block. So they're cool with the horns. But just more full art lands. So I'm really excited about the new art though. And Modern Masters isn't too exciting for me. I don't know. Like Gristlebrand, like yeah, but like Stoic Angel, I don't even know what Stoic Angel does. Domri Rod, like he's pretty new and like fringe playable. Like, could they not put Liliana and Snapcaster on these packs? How many package arts are there? Are there usually 3 only? Is this
I
all
think
of
there's
them?
only 3.
Yeah, I think there's only 3.
What does this mean? Does this mean we're not getting Snapcaster? We're not getting Liliana? What does this mean? I don't know. Why is Stoic Angel here? I'm so confused.
I don't know if the packaging has anything to do with what the contents are, but it is a little concerning that Liliana is not, being represented in any kind of way. So yeah, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be in the set. At least I hope.
Wait, someone tell me about Stoic Angel. Is Stoic Angel like actually a good angel?
No, it was played on. I think someone played it on Commander Clash. It's like it's Bant colors, 4 mana, 3/3, and players can only
3/4.
Untap 1 creature, I believe, each untap step.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
I really would have liked to see like Restoration Angel. Like I know why there's an angel there to sell packs to new players, but like there must be more modern playable angels.
I think for me, I'm a little bit concerned that we know Grizzlebrand is in, we know Domri Raid of all things are in, and both of those cards essentially have to be mythics, and that means that 2 mythic slots are getting eaten up by, like, Domri Raid is just not good. That's not a modern master by any means. It just doesn't see play in modern. It's not very expensive. Grizzlebrand would have been sweet, like in Modern Masters 2015, but it's actually not that expensive now because they just had the promo printing and gave out a ton of them. So they're not like super exciting when we're hoping for Lilianas and Snapcasters. So it's a little scary to see the first 2 mythic slots that are revealed be kind of like average to below average as far as what we really want to see in Modern Masters.
Like, I figured it out. They don't want people to confuse the packs with Innistrad packs, so they don't put Liliana on the front. And they don't put Snapcaster because it's Tiago Chen and they don't care about him. They're gonna reprint him with new art anyway. So, they could have used the new Snapcaster art though.
Yeah. Well, so, we do have a new art on the box itself. I don't know what that would be. Hopefully it's like a pretty good card, but
who do you think that is? Planeswalker?
It could just be like just a random, like, could be like Mana Leak or something.
That's not Dak Faden, is it? Who is
no.
This is not a Planeswalker, right?
I don't know what character that is, but I know it's new art.
I don't think they would put a new card in there. I don't know. Ral Zarek?
No.
Maybe that's the new Snapcaster mage.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, this is not indicative of what we're not hitting the panic button just yet. I'm kind of with Richard here. I'm less excited about really Modern Masters in general and more excited about the Amonkhet stuff. And like you said, Richard, the packaging looks awesome. The gods, I guess we're going to be calling them, and I guess I'm going to be butchered too. I know like a couple, like Set and Ra, and that's basically it. But they look really sweet, and I do hope they kind of go with the Theros theme of like they're indestructible. Maybe they're a different kind of card type. Maybe they just leave them as enchantments or something. I don't know, but and the Planeswalker art is amazing. I mean, even the Gideon's cool. I like how they adorn themselves with, and I think people have talked about this. The Planeswalkers kind of adorn themselves with attire fitting the plane that they're on. Sometimes anyway, like, you had Jace with like this big investigator's coat on top of like his planeswalking attire. And now Gideon has like a new ensemble. Love the Liliana art. Yeah, for the full art lands, you brought up a really good point there, Seth. Like, they do differentiate themselves a little bit from the Zendikar full art lands enough that they're still desirable. Like, I personally love the continuity of the horns in the background and kind of like this is Bolas's realm, and you kind of sculpted this entire plane to his, image, and you can see the horns from like any corner of the planet or the plane, I guess. And shout out to Titus Lunter. I butchered your name. I'm really sorry. On the planes, I'm friends with him on Twitter and did a really good job on that too. But I'm really excited overall on everything. I'm butchering his name.
I'm excited for them too. I think it's interesting that both Gideon and Liliana, when I first saw them, they reminded me of their original printings. Like Liliana looks sort of like Liliana Vess, and Gideon kind of looks like Gideon Jura, when they've looked a lot different in recent ones. One thing I'm a little bit hesitant about is it's more of the same ones. We already have 2 Nissas in standard. When Amonkhet comes out, it's going to be how many Planeswalker Nissas do you need in the same standard format?
Hey,
can we give me the same card? If you have abilities or something, just plaster different art on it, give it a different name. So I am still a little bit sick of just the Gatewatch being so prevalent in every single set, but the gods look super awesome, so I'm still stoked. I don't think we need a third Nissa or like a second or third Gideon in the same standard format.
So you can never have too many Nissa.
Of getting sick of the Gatewatch, do you think a Gatewatch member will die in Amonkhet?
Yes.
Who
Hopefully all of them.
What?
I think it might be. I think that it might be Gideon. And the reason I say is because they're halfway replacing him with Ajani anyway, because Ajani used to be like the original cycle of walkers that was, that represented the white color. So I know he kind of gone different ways and into green and red and what have you, but I think Gideon's going to be the one that gets the axe here.
Yeah, I think it'll be Gideon. Wizards probably did a survey and people didn't relate to Gideon, so they're probably gonna axe him, but mainly I think because it's probably White's shtick, like, we're gonna die a noble sacrifice, Venser is dead, Elspeth is dead, and the only white planeswalker here is Gideon, so you better +1 and become indestructible, because he's gonna get killed by Bolas pretty soon.
My only reason I think it might not happen isn't that like exactly the Theros story arc? Wasn't it like Elspeth versus the gods?
That doesn't need to. That was already a few years ago. People won't remember that too much. Well, I know you remember it pretty vividly.
Maybe he becomes Phyrexian or something. Maybe he gets,
or maybe he converts,
he gets converted
to the Bolas team. Yeah. Now, actually, last kind of point of order. Did you notice? Like, maybe I'm the only one noticing, and we're just talking about it because I'm just looking at them again. The Planeswalker art for the Planeswalker packs, those are not, like, that is not normal art for Planeswalkers. Like, if you look at them again, that looks a lot different than other, I guess, Magic art in general. It's almost like they extracted them right from, like, a webcomic or something.
Yeah, the style is definitely brighter and, like,
definitely,
more cartoony.
Right?
And I like it. I mean, I like having
I think I like that
different
too.
styles of art. I mean, compare the Planeswalker Liliana to their key image Liliana is like night and day difference. And I like both styles. I think I like the different styles of art and how the different artists can express themselves in Magic. So I like that they're doing that.
Yeah, I agree as well. It's almost like those could have been now that they were doing the kind of undead thing with the recent Comic-Con promos, it's almost like those could have been like Comic-Con promos.
They're not zombies, though.
I know, but they're like I said, it's almost like they extracted them right out of like a web comic or a graphic novel.
Yeah, no, I think they do look good. Hopefully, I mean, I don't know how popular the Planeswalker decks have been so far. I know on Magic Online they're not very, and I imagine they're kind of hit or miss in the paper world. So I think making the Planeswalkers different in a way that maybe catches people's eye in the supermarket lane, like, I think that's a good thing, even if they're like, make them look like promos almost to hopefully get people to buy the product because the art is so sweet and different.
I do think, regardless if Liliana's if these are completely awful, I do think Liliana will be a very popular one. But who knows? I mean, we've been getting close with these. It's like we have been here on this podcast covering the very first Planeswalker product pack, or the cards, and it almost seems like each one that comes out is getting a little bit closer to
which one of these terrible cards will Seth declare standard playable? Which one? I'm gonna say maybe Gideon. Gideon has combat abilities. He might look decent.
Yeah, we'll see. Actually, I don't want to spoil the fish mail too much, but I noticed one of our question was, how concerned are you about the uncommons? Because we already have cheap and effective Lilianas and Gideons in standard. So if they print like they have been in the other Planeswalker decks, like a 2-drop that's a 2/2 that becomes like a 4/3 if you have the Planeswalker with the right name, it's possible that those things could actually be standard playable, which is interesting to think about.
Yeah, I actually have a fish mail of my own that I wanted to. Well, someone asked me that I wanted to throw in at the end, and it kind of actually has to pertain to that. Like, what we'll get more to it in the fish mail, but like, what is the overlap here? Like, did they with the slower rotation? Is that something that maybe is a byproduct of that? That it's like the Planeswalker cards are somehow better. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Seth. With like 3-mana Lilianas, like if they print something in one of these packs, it could be really good. The good thing is they usually print multiples in the Planeswalker pack, so that's at least.
I still think like the easiest way to sell these decks is just to put playable cards in them that people have to have for standard, because then people will actually have to buy them. We said that when they were first announced, and it hasn't happened yet, but I could see that happening. Like, put a good uncommon in there that requires you to have to buy the deck to have it for your standard deck, and they will sell.
I still like the Pokemon idea. I still like having them all free to play on Magic Online, or you can just redeem them and then have free to play leagues and tournaments. So everyone has to play a Planeswalker deck, so they're actually balanced, and there's a point to this.
Oh yeah, Pokemon does do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that get boring though with only 2 decks?
Well, no, because like, you have all of them, right?
Like all of them ever printed.
Yeah. That could be cool. Sweet.
Like you can keep even just like the stand. Like I think Pokemon keeps like all of the standard ones, and they rotate the ones available. So, you know, you spend your $10, buy it, redeem it on Magic Online. Now you can play it on Magic Online as well, or buy it directly there. And then you just enter tournaments with them. And you're only allowed these decks unmodified, so it's all balanced. And then you can experience Magic Online for like $10 and have like a legitimate experience, right? By playing like balanced decks against each other.
I don't know. We play these every time, and I don't know if balanced is necessarily always true between these decks, but it would be interesting if they had like, they're doing those throwback pods now, or whatever they're called, the gauntlets of like old standard formats. It would be funny to have like the Planeswalker deck gauntlet. So you pay your 10 ticks and you get a random Planeswalker deck and have to battle it out.
Oh my. Well, moving right along, actually, now that we're kind of on the subject of Magic Online, Seth, why don't you kind of guide us through the bigger announcement of Magic Digital Next and what that means? Because it was we got more information at least, so the sky's not falling on everyone, but there's still some vagueness, but you know, walk us through that.
All right, so the big news is Magic Digital Next is apparently not a game. A lot of people have assumed that Magic Digital Next is the new Magic Online or some Hearthstone-like game that's based on Magic. Magic Digital Next is apparently this umbrella term that refers to essentially a new division at Wizards that's focused on digital products and is making all different kinds of digital products, or will be. So that's essentially what Magic Digital Next is. We got a screenshot of one of these new products that's going to be coming out. We don't know how far along it is or what product it is. My guess is it's an update to Duels of the Planeswalker, but who knows? It could be something very different. But apparently that's what Magic Digital Next is. And then we got a very corporate speak heavy announcement from the president that used a lot of sweet buzzwords about shifting paradigms. And it reminded me of that. You ever see the Futurama episode where the 80s guy meets Fry's like unfrozen and very buzzword heavy and not very enlightening, I guess. But the big news, they also did mention specifically Magic Online in a positive sense and use the addition of leagues and earlier release dates to highlight the potential of the digital format and what they can do with this new team. So I think all together, Magic Digital Next is apparently not a direct replacement for Magic Online. It's an umbrella term, and Wizards seemed happy about Magic Online based on the announcements they put out. Those are my two big takeaways from a somewhat confusing and not all that enlightening announcement.
Well, they also said full rules engine, which is where all the hype comes from. You see this screenshot of what looks like a modern TCG. You know, the hand is cut off so it doesn't waste all your space. The land is like nicely arranged. There's graphics of stuff attacking. The table looks nice. So it looks like a new Duels, right? It looks nice. But then there was a comment that full rules engine, right? And that is literally everything we wanted, right? Full rules engine, up-to-date UI, looks good. Get aboard the hype train. I'm all hyped. I'm ready for
hyped
this.
too.
My question is, does full rules engine mean the cards that are currently in standard and moving forward are going to work? Or does it mean when you play Humility with a Trinisphere on the battlefield and try to brainstorm, that's going to work out properly? So do you think this is going to go retroactive back to Legacy and Modern and Vintage? Or is this like, moving forward, we're going to make sure all these things work?
I would hope so, but even if it's standard only, that's like a monumental step forward, right? Because if they can do standard only, they could theoretically do the rest. So I'm not too worried about that. It might be a staged release, but as long as it's a new UI that actually works, you know, when they say we're thinking about how you tap your mana and stuff like that, right? Like I hope they actually think about that. And new UI, full rules engine, that's everything we wanted, right?
So,
like taking the Hex or Eternal interface or whatever, apply magic cards, and then boom, right? Instant success.
So Richard, and Chaz, what do you think that picture, the one picture we got, what is that product? Is that a Magic Online replacement, a new Duels, or something completely different, a third project with a different name?
I'm going to be hopeful and say that's the new Magic Online.
I want it to be Magic Online or MTGO, but my gut feeling says a Duels game.
That was my initial take on it. It was Duels.
That's my
game,
gut feeling.
But who knows?
But it's like Richard said. I mean,
else as well.
Right. It could be something else. It could be neither of them. But I mean, it's like Richard said, and I agree with you. It's what we were pushing for like the entire time we've been talking about Magic the Gathering on this podcast, and I'm sure a lot of other people too. That we just want the game to work. And you said rules engine. We want that stuff to work. We want it to not be so clunky. We want it to look good. We want it to be intuitive. Like these are all the things. And when I see that picture, like I said, I just hope that is what MTGO looks like, because that looks like a game I want to be playing in 2027, or at least looks like a game in 2017 rather than like 1999. So there's a lot of things a new coat of paint can do. Whether that's like the only thing it needs remains to be seen. But they did say, so the big thing for me before, everyone pumps the brakes and it's like, oh my God, what's happening to MTGO? My guess is if MTGO sticks around, like I said, it probably will get a facelift. And when I see, so one of the bullet points here was upgrading to state-of-the-art back-end technology and systems to sustain and constantly improve digital and tabletop experiences. My guess is they're going to have to make some major rehauls, probably just with MTGO in general. So I don't know how the economy is going to look after that, but maybe it remains the same. Maybe they change it in some way, but I'm really hopeful, and I'm really at least pleased with what I see so far.
So my other question was, based on that picture, does that do anything to the time frame? Like, does this mean they actually have this game and they're like playing it at Wizards, or could this just be like a mock-up and we're still 2 years or 3 years away from actually being able to play it ourselves?
I'm almost positive this is 100% Photoshop. Almost positive. Right? Because if this game was anywhere playable, you'd have a trailer, you would have, some kind of demo. But this is most likely an artist's rendition. But
I do think we're way off. Yeah, I'm with Richard on this. I don't think this is close.
Yeah, plus the Garrick deck is red and the Ajani deck is green. You're like, why would you, why would this be your thing? There's clearly some artist who doesn't know what they're doing. They just mock this all together.
But yeah, again, I mean, like I said, it really does wonders, like how much of just a tune-up and a makeover makes MTGO. So maybe they don't have to change anything. Maybe, all this time, they just really build it from the ground back up and they keep everything the way it is and people don't have to worry. Just before you go like all fully back in on MTGO without, impunity, do realize that there always is going to be risk with any online economy or any online assets.
Dude, I'm ready. I was like, Magic
I'm
Digital
very
next.
excited.
I look at this, I'm like, holy crap, that looks like something I want to play. They need
right?
some
Like,
animation,
this is
though.
exactly
They
what they
need
want.
art. I
They
hope
do.
they don't skimp on it. Like, I know Seth doesn't like it,
You guys.
but when something attacks, I need to see an angel swoop down and, like, kick someone. Because that's why we play Magic, right? You weren't attracted to the game of Magic because
Yeah.
there was a
You have a
force.
point.
You're like, I want zombies, and I want angels, and I want slivers, or whatever, right? So,
we have such a different perspective on this. When I first started playing Magic games, and this is very true, for me it was 100% a strategy game. I would have been just as happy if the cards looked like a deck of playing cards and had the same like gameplay and strategy. And I've like slowly become more immersed in the flavor and the art as I've been in the game, but I've come from the exact opposite end, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I kind of embraced everything about it, and again, this was like before lore and like storylines were even like a huge thing, and I think that's why they focused on it. Because Richard had a great point. Like, you're attracted to all this, you know, you're to fantasy. It's fantasy. It's based on fantasy, and you know, you have all these awesome characters, and they had books at the time, and you're like, you want to read more and like just, you know, try to learn everything about all these characters and the storylines, and that's why it's been so predominant lately, and they've really focused on that aspect of the game. And you know, you do kind of want to see that a little bit. I'm not saying like, as you know, we compare the game a lot to Hearthstone and all that, but you know, it is cool when you hear like some bells and whistles, and it's not just like you're just staring blankly at a computer screen watching like just cards like tap and like just move like inches when they're attacking and stuff like that. Like, you do want to be immersed a little bit.
I think
it's crucial for new players, I think. For us, like, even
That's
though
a great
I want
point.
it,
That's a great point.
you know, after you've seen this animation for the 5th time, you no longer care. So as long as it doesn't slow down the gameplay and disrupt it, it's fine. But for a new player, that's what draws them into the game, right? You want to see Emrakul's banned, but you want to see Emrakul like fly down on the board, shadow over the board. You want to see like hordes of zombies coming in. You know, those cool Hearthstone animations when you play your legendaries. Like, you want that effect. Or even like Pokemon, when you attack, depending on your Pokemon, the attack animation is different, right? So you want these cool bells and whistles if you're not an enfranchised player, because that's what's interesting and that's what's keeping you in this game. And then as you progress to advanced levels, you no longer care about this. You're actually trying to think about how to win the game, so it doesn't matter to you. But for the new player, I think it's very important. So I really hope they actually spend time to do this and they don't just kind of make the cardboard game on computer. That they actually take advantage of the fact that it's digital and do things that you can only do in the digital space.
Yeah, and like other games, there's going to be an option for you, Seth. Don't worry. It's called turn off animations, and you just check the box, and you're good. You're good. You don't have to hear any voiceovers or attack sounds or anything.
I've been reading about this a little bit, and apparently you can do that in Hearthstone. However,
Yes.
if your opponent doesn't do it, you still have to suffer through these long, leggy turns while they get to watch all the funny things happening. So I'm fine with doing that. If they need to do that to make Magic Online a better game, I'm fine with it. I just really hope that the gameplay itself doesn't suffer because of it. I imagine timing out because there's these animations swooping around, and being wizards, they're a little laggy and they don't work 100%. So I got to sit there for like 10 seconds and watch my clock tick down and lose the match because there's this stupid animation. So that's my nightmare scenario. So if it's implemented well and doesn't take away from the gameplay, I'm fine with it. But if there's long delays and 10 seconds ticking off the clock, and that's going to make me crazy and unhappy.
Seth's going to set up like a private Moto server. Everyone's on like V8 and he's like, I'm playing V4. I don't want your fancy graphics.
Yes.
But overall, I mean, like I said, to me, for someone that hasn't been really super into Magic the Gathering Online, like this is the stuff I like to see. That at least, like, again, it doesn't have to have all the bells and whistles. That would be great. Although some things would be fine. But this is a step in the right direction for me. I don't know if this is. I mean, obviously you're hyped, Richard. So hopefully Seth can endure the coming change.
Oh, if this turns out to be Duels of the Planeswalker and Moto looks exactly the same in V5, like, Oh boy. Everyone should just like unsubscribe from the podcast because it's going to be the most negative podcast you've ever heard in your life.
And in all honesty, Wizards doesn't need me to be hyped for whatever this is. Like, all they have to do is not destroy my collection somehow, and we're fine. Like, I'm gonna play. I've played Magic Online through the worst of Magic Online days for years and years when it really was a horrible, barely functional program. So they already got me, but it excites me to hear someone like Chaz be excited because you're not a Magic Online player. So the fact that this new thing might bring you into the fold and get you playing, I think is really good. And that excites me, that it's exciting people that aren't super enfranchised on Magic Online. So I think that part of it's a really good thing.
Yeah, I mean, really, truthfully, I am excited. And I would like to play MTGO more. I mean, I really would. I probably would play it more than I would start or go to LGSs these days. And that's just the honest truth. I can't do it. I can't.
I'm almost positive that most people in Chaz's position, it's because of the finance barrier as opposed to the terrible interface.
So
they have to change the model if they want to acquire these people, I think.
Well, the good thing is the great thing about MTGO is it's like a fraction of the cost on basically every level. Outside of like drafting and stuff like that.
But it's still like $200-$300 before you've even done anything.
Yes.
Right? That's like worse than a game. You gotta like buy a PS4 and a game or something just to get onto Moto, right? Like,
right. But again, I'm willing to spend that if I know that I'm going to be actively using it. Like when I fire up Moto and it's just like, what am I doing? I'm not. But you're right. Like they're doing this to attract the people like me who are on the fence, and it's like I want to actually play like a game and not something that's I'm just staring at my screen, like no excitement. Like what am I doing? I don't know. But again, I'm super excited. Moving along, so a lot of Modern this weekend. GP Vancouver and GP Brisbane. I had that right.
Yep.
Yes, those are correct.
Okay. What do you guys think? Because as soon as they're over, we have the whole this needs to be a Pro Tour format again. Look at all these people playing Modern this weekend.
Yeah.
And
yes.
But
did anyone complain about this at all? Everyone was like, this was great. This was great coverage. And diversity of decks. Modern is cool, awesome. And then we're not going to see it again for a long time.
Yeah. Well, that wouldn't be the case if it was a Pro Tour format. Like, I think people need to realize it's because it's not a Pro Tour format that you're watching it and getting this excited. And actually, if you're getting this excited and it's just a GP, like, isn't that enough? Like, doesn't that fill the need to watch Modern, at least on this level? Like, do you really need to go above and beyond to have it at the Pro Tour, and then you have like these weird bannings and everyone like goes into an uproar? Like, you can't have it both ways.
Well, because I want to see John Finkel versus PVDDR and stuff, right? Like, there are certain players that don't show up to Grand Prix. So
but they wouldn't want to play Modern anyway.
Well, they have to. It's part of the format.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
but and, I mean that's simplistic. They brewed new decks and flew to the far side of Canada to play in this tournament. You had a lot of pros there, so if they just absolutely hated it, why would they even bother to do that? You know what I'm saying? Like, we saw new decks. That the Death Shadow aggro deck was like a breakout.
Yeah, but I guess it's like new, but the idea wasn't new. You know what I'm saying? Like that archetype has been it's played differently, but it's essentially the same thing.
It's a very different deck than the 15 one drop.
I mean, it's close to Jund. It's Jund with Death Shadow more than Infect not using Infect, right?
Sure.
But I don't know. I think it was great. I think that it's really exciting. As far as being a Pro Tour format, I guess that's another conversation. It is troubling, I guess, to see how popular it is, and then Wizards just turning their back on that. I'm not really sure why Wizards would tie their boat to Standard and Limited, which is incredibly unpopular when it comes to watching coverage, instead of formats that are actually popular. It seems like the goal of forcing everyone into Standard is directly opposite the goal of being a successful esport and getting Twitch viewers and growing the game that way. So it'll be interesting to see how those two competing ideals that Wizards has actually battles out, because I think that more Modern and Legacy events is the best thing they can do for themselves as far as getting Twitch viewers, compared to a stale Standard or, God forbid, Limited. But apparently that's opposite their goal of making as much money possible through Standard. So we'll see. I guess, I don't know. The one thing we've learned about Wizards in the past year or so is it's very possible that they will just walk back this change again in the near future, because they've done that several times. So I'm not really holding my breath. The thing I wanted to mention was that SCG event. Did either of you get to watch any of that?
It was like the greatest
the
event
part?
ever made.
That
was really awesome.
This is how Pro Tours should be. This is how you make teams matter. You actually have like people fighting for the legacy specialist and all that stuff. Like, this is what we need for coverage and for Pro Tours. And it was probably the best event I've ever watched, just as far as the structure and the format of it. So
it was really good. In terms of, well, then let me just kind of ask an honest question here. When was the last Pro Tour you actually really liked, like in recent memory? Either of you. I mean, or I guess the question's for both of you. When was the last Pro Tour that you watched and you just really loved?
I like them all, but that doesn't mean they can't be better.
No. But like, did you love it because, like, why did you love it? Because the coverage, or just because you're watching great Magic? Like, why that specific Pro Tour?
I think I'm just hyped because people tell me I should be hyped. It's really the frenzy of the community, right? Like, oh, it's the Pro Tour. Oh, we're staying up, 1 a.m. is when it starts. Better get packed on caffeine. And let's see what the pros are bringing. Let's see what the market is doing. And it's really the festivities around the Pro Tour. In terms of actual gameplay, yeah, the last one was bland. The Eldrazi Modern one was pretty sweet before we got sick of Eldrazi. So I don't know. Gameplay has always been hit or miss, but usually it's the community and the fanfare around the Pro Tour that makes it so special. So
for you, it wouldn't matter what format it was.
I mean, as long as it's literally not Mardu vehicles, mirrors the entire way. We had 3 decks this Pro Tour, so it was fine until the top 8, right? And when we get to the top 8, it's usually the players in the top 8 that make me care. Like, I'll watch, Kai Bude versus Finkel playing Mardu vehicle mirrors all day, right? But when it's like random people playing Mardu vehicles, I'm like, I don't care, right? I like it when it's like, Finkel versus Paulo. The infamous wolf token block with Kibler and Finkel, stuff like that, right? Like, I really like the big names in the top 8, and when we're going through Swiss, it's more about seeing the different archetypes and the hype. So I don't know, I haven't really seen a Pro Tour where I'm like, this was a waste of time. They've all been decent, but I think they can be a lot better. And I think a lot of the hype is from the community itself rather than Wizards doing anything directly.
The point I was trying to get at is, if Modern was a Pro Tour format, I think you would get the same disdain where it's like, oh, it's stale, because we were just hearing some of that like not too long ago.
Well, the thing is, though, with this format, it doesn't matter. Like, if you get a bad Modern matchup, you don't have to sit through the same Infect versus Infect match or Mardu versus Mardu. You can watch the Legacy match or watch what the Standard players are doing. When one match ends, you jump over another one, and it actually matters for the outcome of the team match. So I think that this just solves so many of those problems. Like, with bad formats, because you have 3 formats in it. It gives the Modern/Legacy people a reason to get excited for the Pro Tour that maybe they didn't have before, and it definitely makes teams relevant. Like, I think it would be so exciting to see teams battling it out to get the best Legacy specialist on their team. Like, they got a great they got Brad Nelson playing Standard. Who's the free agent Legacy player they can get to their team that's going to put them over the top? And even better, it makes the best teams have a better shot of winning, which gives you more good storylines. Like when you have 3 pros on a team, the better team is more likely to win because there's less variance involved in a 3-match compared to just 1 match. So you're going to see more recognizable pro players later in the tournament, which is also good for coverage. So
and I agree with you. I love the team thing, and it would be amazing. So you're looking at it as more of a celebration of all the formats at a pro tour, right? Like that, and I do agree it would solve a lot of the problems where you can kind of cut to different things, and that would in and of itself would keep the pro tour fresh throughout the entirety of the tournament, where you're kind of honing in on different things. And while I would love that, and while I'm sure both of you would love that because we're older players, the problem is people who are getting into Magic who barely know what's going on in the first place, now you're cutting to all these different decks, and they have no idea what's going on.
I think you want that.
At least, like with Standard,
no, you don't want to see the same decks
expect.
over and over just because it's easier to understand. I think you actually want to see these weird decks, and I think you want new players to raise an eyebrow when this guy just got killed by Infect on turn 3, and you're like, what just happened? Right? And you want them to investigate, and you want them to see, oh, you can play Merfolk and bash with little fishies or whatever, or you can play Burn and, go to their face. I think you actually want to expose them to these new formats. And if it's hard to understand, then we need to improve coverage to, somehow
that's what I was going to say.
Explain these decks or keep what cards are relevant up or, whatever it is, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think you would need to at least triple the coverage team on that one, because you would need a dedicated, like a great Standard coverage team, a great Modern coverage team, and a great Legacy coverage team. But I mean, I do agree with you. I kind of didn't really think about it until you brought it up, Seth, that, and I was kind of, when I was watching it, I'm like, oh, this is pretty interesting the way they're kind of cutting around. Like, I didn't think about it at a Pro Tour level that it could really solve a lot of the issues. Hopefully, maybe down the line that could happen. But again, I don't see them propping up the other formats when basically they don't do anything for the other formats in design. Like, when they're designing these sets, they don't have these formats in mind. So it's like kind of awkward when they're designing a new set and they're trying to showcase a new set when they cut to a Modern or a Legacy match and like none of the cards are getting played.
Well, maybe they got to stop thinking so narrow. They're not just promoting this particular set. They're promoting Magic in general, right? And, 1/3 of their event will be promoting the new set, but the other 2/3 is promoting the other aspects of Magic.
And there's nothing that, it just seems like it achieves everyone's goals, because Wizards could still make Standard the primary focus of their coverage, even with this. Like, when you do a deck tech, have most of them be Standard deck techs. You can primarily start off with the Standard match of the team format and then use Legacy and Modern to fill in the gaps. Like, they can still make it a celebration or a promotion of the newest set, but this also makes all the Modern and Legacy crowd happy. And I mean, for me, the biggest takeaway is they had 2 events on yesterday, and the difference in the coverage was night and day. And I know SCG is good anyway, but it was just a much more intriguing format to have these cuts in different formats and always something going on. When with the official Wizards coverage at Vancouver, there were some pretty slow times. Like, they do a match, it finishes, they go to the pro slides for 20 minutes with a "we'll be back" message. When on SCG, they're cutting over to see what's happening in this crazy long Miracles match in Legacy after the Modern or Standard match wrapped up. So I at least think Wizards is already moving towards team events. Like, they're already doing team GPs and stuff, which are back on the schedule after not being for a long time. And I would at least like to see them take the step there. And the event was universally loved. If you looked at the Twitter feeds from pros, from people watching it, like, I didn't see any negative comments, and just outpouring of love. People messaging to Wizards asking if they would get rid of like Team Unified Modern GP and make it this format instead. So I think that it would just be a huge win all around for just about everyone to see this at least be a GP level format.
Yeah, I think they could make the pivot. I mean, the thing about, doing this podcast and kind of following along with what happens in Magic, you can only really look at the information that, you're given and what you're told and what they're seeing. But this could be like a pivot to what they kind of set their ways in, if there's enough sway for them to do so. Like, if they kind of look at this, especially with them having a new president and kind of leaning into the whole esports thing. I think you're absolutely right, Seth, that if anything, this does highlight the team aspect of Magic. And I think you raised a really good question a couple podcasts ago, Richard, or maybe last podcast, about how do you emphasize, teams in Magic? Like how do you compare these to other teams of other games like the Dignitas, the C9, these big teams? Well, this is like how you do that when you have all these different players on a team kind of bringing their own specialties to the table.
Yeah, so I actually thought about this a lot over the weekend. So Twitch released a job opening for esports manager for Magic the Gathering, which I'm like, they're actually serious about this and we're going to make Magic an esport. And I'm not applying, but I was thinking about this a lot. And I want to get your guys' opinion on this. So StarCraft 2, StarCraft 1, it's essentially a 1v1 game. You can play like 2v2, but that's not really competitive. But they have basically a league and team system where you have like, say, a team of 4 to 6 players. You play against each other and you knock out the other players until the other players, the team has no players left, and then you win. Right? And every week, it's like a real league, like the NFL or something, where you play round robin, have standings, and then at the end of the year, there's a playoff. Right? So it's not this giant open tournament where you seed 4,000 players and see who can go through 16 rounds and end up at the top. Right? It's this really structured team format that, lets you have the same faces over and over again. It lets you have the same teams. And basically for new players trying to break into the scene, you're trying to break in onto a team as opposed to go through an open bracket. What do you think if Magic just went totally that way, went to a league system like all of the other esports and all of the actual professional sports, as opposed to doing a giant open tournament, every week or every month?
So here's the problem I see is I think it could be really cool, but that would require pros to actually be able to make a living off Magic. Like, you can't do a league every weekend and have real teams if these people have to like miss GPs sometimes because they got to work, or they don't want to pay the money to fly across the continent or the world to go to the next tournament. So I think it could be very exciting. I just don't know if Wizards has the financial will to support pros full time, or the ability to, like other esports do.
Well, let's just assume that if they're taking this seriously into an esport, that would be a byproduct, that they would make pros be able to live off this like they do in other games.
Then I think it would be awesome. Like, I think there would still need to be a GP circuit or something where people could have open tournaments. I think that's important, but I would love to see a pro level league that went on for X amount of weeks and had standings in a more structured format.
I think that would be really awesome, personally. And Richard, I do know what you're talking about. I actually haven't looked into StarCraft in a while, but I do know what you're talking about. I don't know what the reaction was to that, but I haven't heard anything hugely negative, because that would usually pop up on my radar more than just positive stuff. But I'm assuming it was well received. The issue I see with, more of a long structure like that is with how many releases are, within a year, like how many sets are it's kind of like it's almost like a different, like each time we would look in, it would be different, where you have something like StarCraft, it's like the same game most of the time. I mean, they do little tweaks here and there, but it's mostly like the same game. So you're not like lost, and you're not like, oh, where did that stuff go? I guess I'm pertaining to standard mostly. But I do think overall that would probably be a small problem, if a problem at all.
Yeah, I mean, League of Legends has this. They always release patches like every couple weeks, and then the meta shifts dramatically. And, sometimes people complain, like, you're just about to go to the playoffs, and then they switch the patch, so everything you've been doing the entire season is now irrelevant, and then you're not a true representative. But ignoring that for a second, I don't think that's a problem, because Magic players already face this today, right? We watch a Pro Tour every 4 months. It's a new format, and, stuff is happening, so it doesn't matter whether that's week 4 in the season or week 8 in the season or just Pro Tour 1, 2, 3. But I really hope Wizards is actually thinking about stuff like this and not thinking solely on, how do we make Grand Prix, 3-day events or something, right? I hope they're actually thinking outside the box and seeing what every other successful sport/esport has done. And they've all gone to leagues, right? Because if you want pros, they need a stable salary. right? And currently GPs are very expensive. You got to fly around the world, right? If you held a league, you can hold it every week in one location. Everyone would move there. And then now it's just cheap, right? Now you just got to pay their salary. You don't have to pay their hotels and their flights and all of that. So I think it makes a very interesting dynamic. And I think it would allow you to gain attachment to pros and teams, because your pro is always playing every Sunday, right? He's not playing every Sunday when he happens to get the lucky breaks to make it into, the top 8 or day 2 or whatever. So I really hope Wizards is thinking about this. And, it's interesting to see what the Twitch esports manager will do about this. I'm very curious what that job will entail. Like, what are they going to do to bolster esports, especially only at Twitch? Because it seems like it's more in the hands of SCG and Wizards at this point.
Yeah, and to your point, other, I guess, large studios would hold off. So I guess they would have to restructure their release schedule, I guess, again. But, they would hold back big patches before a big tournament like this, Richard. But yeah, so Wizards could really just hold back, or again, switch their schedule so they know when the products are releasing, and then people don't have to kind of get, midway through there's a set that drops and everything that they've been working towards kind of goes up in flames. So I think you're absolutely right. I this does sound really intriguing, and maybe this is something, as they are consulting people that are well versed in esports, and as they're kind of moving in that direction, a lot of things that we've have seen are all these changes, and I think you said it's best that they kind of pivot and kind of redact, or they change their ways yet again, hopefully for the better. Okay, we covered Magic Digital next. We covered the GPs, Amonkhet, all this stuff. Did I miss anything?
It's time to go goldfishing.
Let's go goldfishing. So this is a new segment where we kind of just talk randomly about Magic before we get into the fish mail. And I don't have a specific topic, so as we go along, we'll kind of get a little bit better with that. But I was doing some things that I wanted to at least bring to your attention. I tweeted out earlier. I go back to the Time Spiral block, and it seems like there's new is Wizards printing new cards? Because I know that the answer is no, but it seems like there's new cards in this block every time I go back and look at this block. Like, did you guys play this extensively? Because I remember playing it, and I don't remember half these cards. Like, there's a split. There's 3 split cards in red. You have Boom Bust, Dead Gone, Rough and Tumble, and in Planar Chaos again, and no other color had these split cards in this block. Like, I did not even remember that.
Yeah, Wizards was not always consistent with their design philosophies back then. Incomplete cycles, weird color pie things.
I mean, I understand that they kind of wanted to take a different look at design philosophy and shifting the color pie, but it's just funny when you go back and look at some of these cards. And again, I'm really not kidding. I looked through some of these cards and did not know some of these existed. But again, there was just a random split card cycle.
That's kind of how that whole block was, though. There's so many just random cards. There's random split card cycle, but there's also a million old mechanics. There's buyback and cycling and echo and flanking and just pretty much any random mechanic that they could think of. And then there's tons of new ones that have not shown up again in any sets either. Aura Swap, Absorb, these one-shot mechanics. So I really like it. I think it's a really interesting take on a block. It's definitely odd, but I think we got a lot of cool cards. If it wasn't for that set, there'd be so many cards that see play today. Damnation is probably the prime example that just wouldn't be in Magic.
You know what always gets me? Whenever I play Commander, I get a split card. I think I can fuse it, but I cannot. Why would you do this? Why would you make split cards that fuse and split cards that don't? And then the fuse text is tiny, right? You just basically got to know, okay, Dragon's Maze or whatever, fusible. So many times, yeah, I'll do this. I'm oh wait, you cannot fuse this. So bad. Punt.
And did you know that there is an aura, I think it was in Planar Chaos, let me double check, that gave a creature Poisonous 3. Wait, did you even do you remember that card at all? I just
so
again
poison is like in fact where you can only give one
initiation.
at a time.
That's what it's called.
Is that how poison works? I don't remember.
Whenever this deals combat damage to a player, that player gets 3 poison counters. A player with 10 or more poison but like I don't think any other card in Magic said poisonous. Like as the ability. And this just randomly has poisonous 3. There's so many crazy cards in this block. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there's really a point to this, but I did look at this. So do you want to counter crazy? I know you tweeted out over the weekend. Set this the expertise cycle deck.
Yeah.
So you want to counter some nonsense? You use Nyx, that horrible card from Planar Chaos. Counter target spell if no mana was spent to play it for 1 blue.
Hey, that's pretty good.
There you go. That's pretty good, right?
That actually has use cases.
I keep pulling out cards that I have no idea. Like the poisonous 3 card. I don't know.
So are we in for a weird block sometime soon? Like a future sight, a time spiral?
So.
Just weird, wacky. Are we getting contraptions or whatever anytime soon? Are we getting these weird, wacky mechanics?
I would have to think.
I think we've seen some. We've seen some of the, like, Delve was one of the future shifted mechanics from that site. And that actually came back, but I just don't think they are comfortable with sets like that anymore. Like, there was so much complexity in that set and that block, and I don't know if Wizards is going to go back to that. Like,
yeah, I wish not good for new players, unfortunately. Only good for old Grizzly players.
Yes, I do. This almost could just be its own supplemental product these days. Like, I think that's where you would see a set like this, because I like Poisonous 3. Again, I look at some of these cards. It's like I'm seeing them again for the first time. Like, what is this card? Oh man. Did you know about this card? I feel like you would know about this card, Seth. There's like Core Dirge. I didn't even know that was a card. And then Shrouded Lore. Like, that seems horrible.
The Dirge one is like a white card that's color shifted to black, right?
Black,
it damage and does something. That card's actually really good in limited.
I could see that.
I don't remember what the other one does. What does the other one do?
It's 1 black. It's a sorcery. Target opponent chooses a card in your graveyard. You may pay a black. If you do, repeat this process except that opponent can't choose a card already chosen for Shrouded Lore. Then put the last chosen card into your hand. That just seems like a lot of work to get 1 card.
Oh, wait, but what if you only have 1 card in your graveyard?
Yeah, see? Then
does that mean you just get it back?
Yeah.
That's actually kind of
interesting, right?
There could be. Now I got to do an against the odds with that or something, because that actually sounds sweet. I don't know how to use it, but
well, you're welcome. See, I can't be the only one that is now reblock. In addition to that, and I'll keep this brief so we can get to the fish mail. I took it upon myself to go back in time, and I don't know why. I think because I wanted to raise the argument that green has always been good in Magic, contrary to popular belief. And so this was the first, and you're going to love this, Seth, in 1994 by Zach Dolan. This was Stasis Control, and there was like all these weird cards. And you look at this, and this was like an actual deck. You have a Black Lotus, Emerald, Mox Jet, Pearl, all that stuff. And then you just had 2 Stasis. You had a Ley Druid. You had Birds of Paradise. Like, this was really sweet back in the day. I don't know. And then you had Ollie Raid. That's probably a name not many people know that are listening to this podcast. 1996, Ice Age Alliances constructed. Pro Tour Columbus. Played 4 Woolly Spider and 4 Giant Trapdoor Spider in his list. Like, this is a list for me. And the article was by Frank Karsten, the 7 worst decks that ever won a Pro Tour, and that was at his number 1. So a lot of hate for the Spiders. I don't know why.
2-4 OP. Were there 3/3 flyers in the format? Is that what was going on? 3/1 flyers?
What was really good in Ice Age and Alliances, Richard, that were flyers?
Phantom Monster? I don't know.
Wait, these weren't the... Oh, what were they?
Can't even block Sarah Angel.
It can.
I don't even think most of the Spiders actually had reach.
Wait, what? Was it the original Giant Spider 2/4 reach?
No. Yeah. Woolly Spider is a 2/5 when it blocked a creature with flying.
Oh.
So it can block Sarah Angel. Yeah. See? That's some next level tech right there. And while Trapdoor Spider cannot block creatures with flying,
What?
it can take out
It blocks creatures with
non-flying
mountain
creatures.
blocks? No.
That card is so bad. So
What?
It's so bad. So it's 3 mana, and then for 3 more mana, you can tap it and exile a creature that's a creature without flying that's attacking you, and you have to exile itself.
Yeah, but this was back when you can block sack. So you could block a creature, tap, and remove another attacking creature in Giant Trapdoor Spider.
Are you
I think you
sure
can still do that.
damage is on the stack at this point?
I don't know.
This might have been before that. I mean, we got interrupts in this era still.
I do think that's how. I mean, that's how Mog Fanatic could take out 2/2s.
Yeah, but the Mog Fanatic was much later.
My favorite part.
You're right. You might be right.
The land has 18 lands, and it's going up to Jockle Hops at 6 mana to destroy everything.
Dude, people
That's
didn't
some
know mana curves
ambitious
back
deck
then.
building back in the day.
It was really ambitious, and so it was. This was both Patrick Chapin and Frank Carson. So they both said this, and I read the article by Brian David Marshall. I think it was on the Mothership. That was like a verbal recollection of the first Pro Tour or something like that. It was a really good article, and all 3 of them confirmed that nobody knew Necropotence was a good card until that Pro Tour.
I believe that was also...
Everyone thought it was a horrible card.
Today we learned Chaz can't say Necropotence.
Crumbling Necropolis.
I said, oh.
You said Necropolis, actually.
No, I said
Wait, what?
Necropolis.
What card are you talking about?
No, Necropotence.
Crumbling Necropolis is decent.
I don't think that was a... Oh, did I say that? I meant Necropotence.
What card are you talking about?
Necropotence.
There we go. I think you said it wrong in a second way, but you haven't now.
To be fair, no one knew it was good for a long time. Everyone thought it was a bad card.
Yes.
All right, I have my own goldfishing story here.
This is why. See, this is why we need that Reddit thread. This is why we need the phonetic on Gatherer, because I remember someone said Necropotence to me one time, and I was never corrected.
Was that Seth?
And so I kind of always... Maybe it was Seth.
It probably was me. Actually, I know how to say Necropotence. That's one of the few cards I say correctly, I think.
Damn it, Seth.
All right, so I watched John Wick 2 this weekend. Great movie, by the way. Great movie. Watch John Wick 2, especially if you like the first one. But there was a Power Rangers trailer, and Nissa Ravine was in it. I swear to God, the new Rita is Nissa Ravine. I'll post a screenshot, look at this, and tell me that Wizards shouldn't be suing them. It is totally Nissa Ravine in Power Rangers. Check it out, and tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, so for everyone that's going to see the picture, so I'm looking at it right now. Like I said, actually, Richard said it best. Just slap some elf ears on Rita, and you got Nissa. And I even went further to say, all those, I guess those are the putties these days, but those could all just be Eldrazi.
I mean, it kind of looks like a Johnny. If you look at the guy on the left, that could pass for a Johnny with the mane.
Maybe.
We need a Magic the Gathering movie. We need it now. Where is it?
I think it needs to happen.
I mean, this looks like legitimate Nissa, and it doesn't look too cheesy.
It doesn't. I mean, I question what the first movie would look like. I just hope it wouldn't be too cheesy. But I think they could do something passable. All we need is passable.
They need to do the Brothers War. I wish they would not ignore their old lore. The Brothers War is an actual legitimate story. It'd make an excellent movie. It's your great intro to Magic the Gathering and mana and all that stuff. But instead, we'd get a Johnny running around hitting people with his weapon.
You know what? It's gotta be the Gatewatch. If they make a movie, there's no way that's not what it is. And there's no way... Oh man!
You see, for a movie to be good, the source material.
I think we've talked about that, right? It would perfectly fall in line with everything that's going on in movies these days with with all this MCU and DC universe and all these comic book characters, like that would be par for the course.
Except they have legitimate stories, and we have like, better assemble the Gatewatch, and let's go over here. Who's getting unlocked? Better put him in his
in the moon. Trap him in the moon.
Yeah, trap him in the moon. We got him. Oh no, didn't defeat him. He just ran away for the sequel. she, Emrakul's a she. Sorry.
Again, I'm not looking like to be wowed or, have awards like Avatar or something like that. We just need passable. Just to kind of get the, people.
I'd rather have no movie than a bad / average Magic
Actually,
movie.
maybe you're right.
That would just bury the franchise forever.
Well, if their D&D movie is indicative of anything, I don't know if you've, if anyone's ever seen the D&D movie. That was, yeah. What's yours, Seth? Do you have one? That's okay. If you don't.
I actually don't. You caught me at the last minute. Next week, I'll have something for Gold.
I had two, so I covered you. Don't worry.
All right.
I got one for Seth.
Okay.
So we were talking about the Egyptian gods, right?
Yes.
So there's a Reddit thread. So one of the gods is named Seth. And there is a comment. Seth, god of chaos, probably better known as Saffron Olive.
that was pretty good.
That was really awesome. I did see that.
So Seth, you're apparently a god in Amonkhet. So you're not allowed to lose a match. You're not allowed to lose a game. You gotta look invincible.
Someone said that it's going to be the red god, though, and then I'll have to play it because it has my name.
Yes,
red.
Yes, you have.
So I'm hoping they're wrong, and it's actually blue or something.
You've never experienced. Wait, you've never felt the power of playing a Hell Rider?
In Cube.
Oh,
have you never felt the power of flooding out as mono red and doing nothing, or dumping your head and getting Wrath the Godded?
Yes. That is probably more accurate.
But you can make a total Seth deck. There's also that Set cat or whatever. Set's tiger.
Yes, Set's tiger.
Yeah, and then Seth, god of chaos. We got this.
Getting close to Seth Tribal. Are there any olive cards?
Oh. I can't believe we've never searched this. There's gotta be an olive card.
Olive branch? I don't know. I'll have to look it up on Magic Online.
All right, let's move into fish mail. So if you have questions, send them to @MTGGoldfish on Twitter with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your questions on air. So from @Shanderson93, have you guys ever thought of doing some no ban list modern videos?
I think that Channel Fireball did a series of those, and I haven't really thought about it, but it could be a cool thing to try, possibly.
Yeah, I think Card Kingdom had like a series of tournaments on them with pretty cool posters, and the format was not what people thought it would be. It was not as degenerate as you would think. So that might be interesting to visit. Next question or comment, I guess, from Real Tap Water. Duels isn't Duels of the Planeswalker. It's free to play, has card releases, and open deck building. We should all take a second look. What was the last like Duels product you guys played? Have you guys played the new ones?
I have not played the new ones. The last one I played, what was the very first one with the Scavenging Ooze promo? Was that the very first one?
I think that's actually just the original Duels of the Planeswalker.
That's the original Duels of the Planeswalker. I played that. It wasn't bad. I liked it. It's just the problem is it's not tailored for players like us who,
Well, that's what the comment is saying. The new ones aren't like the originals. But I played Magic Origins, which I believe is part of the new Duels. But I didn't play that far. I just played the story mode a bit. So we might have to check it out. Maybe it's good now. I know that the card releases are still limited though, right? It's not just any cards.
I believe there's not just any cards, and it also has weird deck construction rules where you can only play so many of each rarity in your deck or something. So I don't know. I think if you don't play Magic Online, it's probably interesting and fun, but if I have to choose between playing this weird pseudo Magic and playing actual Magic, it's a hard sell for me to pick the pseudo Magic game.
Wait, real question. Is Smuggler's Copter and Emrakul banned in Magic Duels? Can I still play these cards?
I don't know.
So if someone knows, let me know. Alright, it'd be interesting to still play Emrakul in Standard if it's still legal in this format. Next question from @Streakus. Isn't push for constructed the root of the problem? If all rares were balanced, we could have more viable decks. Maybe?
Yeah, I guess.
You don't want all cards to be good. Because you want the bad cards, right? There's always that article from Morrow about why they have bad cards.
Yep.
But I do think push for constructed is partially a problem. You know, the infamous story cards are always a bit too strong. But I think they do want, you know, there are good cards, bad cards, and great cards. So I don't think they ever want to remove that and just have all cards be the same.
And I mean, some cards are naturally going to be better than others. I don't think that having some cards geared for constructed is necessarily wrong. But I think it's dangerous if you go too far with that. When you get to the point where you have to have this card be a constructed staple, that's when it gets dangerous, in my opinion.
All right, from @RunThunderSnow, do you think standard would be better if it still rotated every 6 months but had 7 to 8 sets in it?
Maybe? We get a lot of maybes this week.
Yeah, there are a lot of... I don't... See... I don't know.
I am back on board with the quicker rotation after seeing the most recent Pro Tours and just some of that kind of stuff. So I think quicker rotation would definitely have some benefits, especially on the tournament level. As far as having more sets in it, the weird thing is that leads to like weird interactions and more powerful decks. So I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. I'd have to think about it more.
Yeah, it's always a fine balance. Like, the more you rotate, the fresher standard will be, obviously, but as a standard player, you gotta keep replacing your deck so soon. And which, you know, how do you balance that? Because Wizards has tried both ways, right? And the last time they went to quick rotation, apparently no one played standard because they're like, what's the point? I gotta buy a new deck, you know, in 3 months anyway. Might as well just sit it out. So they have to somehow balance that and, you know, not, you know, the freshest format is every weekend we get a set rotation, right? But your standard deck is going to be very expensive as you rebuy it every week. So
yeah, I think. Oh, go ahead, Seth.
Quick question for you guys. Do you think people were actually not showing up to standard for that reason, or was that just a illusory correlation by Wizards? And actually it's because of Emrakul and Smuggler's Copter and some of the actual format issues.
Yeah, I would have to think it's the latter, right? Like, those cards were super good. Like, they were too good, obviously, that they needed to be banned. And that can't not be a big part of it. And I think it's probably more of a part of it than, you know, the cards were rotating too fast. I mean, the good thing is the prices would be at least a little lower because the expectation that all the cards are rotating anyway. The problem is it basically evens out that you're spending roughly the same because it rotates and you have to update your deck. So I don't know. I think what they have now is the fine line, although it's easy to say right now that the faster rotation would be great. But if standard was in a good spot, I think people would be really fine with how it is now.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you guys are right, but I think the fast rotation hit on budget can't be ignored. Because I know a lot of people will say,
true,
why buy this standard deck? I'll just play this modern deck and I can play it for years and years, theoretically, as opposed to having to buy a new standard deck, you know, every 6 months, every 12 months or whatever. Next question, from D. Right Keek. What are the odds that Bolas will be banned as too powerful like Emrakul? So, will Bolas be banned? Too powerful or too strong? What is your guess? Or too powerful or too weak? What are your guesses?
I'm going too powerful. I don't know if it'll be banned, but I think it's gonna, if anything, it's more likely to be too powerful than too weak.
I think it's gonna be really powerful, but whether it's too powerful or not powerful, I think the most important thing is the flavor win with this. And this is something that you said, Richard, where I would love to see the interaction between Nicole Bolas and the Dark Intimations card. Like, you have to play that card, and because you're playing that card, it can ultimate immediately or something like that. Now, it could just be, like I said that the ultimate is too powerful, but I think without that, it would be kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, I'm going to say Bolas will be too weak. I think Bolas will be, you remember the Golgari Big Garrick? What was he, like 7 or 8 to cast?
Apex Predator.
Yeah, really powerful abilities, but like just way too expensive to play in standard, so you'll see him as a 1 or 2 of in sideboards. My guess is that I can't see them printing like, you know, 3 CMC Bolas, right? Like I just can't see that happening. So my guess is he'll just be too expensive and he'll do crazy things, but you just can't cast them. Unless you Etherworks Marvel and that's a real deck, and then that'd be weird.
Yeah. Although, again, it could just be not good enough unless you're playing Dark Intimations. Whether that's a deck or not remains to be seen.
All right, next question from @EricPug. I always have about half of every standard deck as I draft weekly online / in paper. What's the best way to convert to a full tier 1 deck?
Decide what deck you want or decks you want, and then probably sell / trade the cards that don't go in those decks from your leftovers and kind of narrow down to get the cards of the deck that you are trying to build would be my suggestion.
All right, next question from @Nazi13. Would you rather win a pro tour with the jankiest deck ever and never be seen again, or be a competitive pro?
Jank. Definitely. Because I think people remember that. Like, I still remember, oh man, I shouldn't have said that because I don't remember his name, but the kid that,
Wow.
the top 8 of the GP with the Demonic Pact Harmless Offering deck. Like, I still remember his face in that tournament when if it was some pro with a random deck, I wouldn't remember it at all.
I think this is a pertinent question. I would rather be, Ollie Reed was a good player, but I'd rather be the person that wins with a deck like Red Green Spiders and then just never is seen again.
Yeah, I'd rather be one and done. Being a pro doesn't seem like it's a good thing. It seems like it's a lot of hard work for very little payoff. So, one and done, get the glory, and then get out. So,
yeah.
Janky.
Although if the new esports representative makes it enticing for you, Richard, are you still inclined, or you just want to make your mark and that's it?
If you had a guaranteed salary as a pro, that would be way better than, I hope you spike a GP sometime in the next 6 months or you can't pay rent or eat any food. Next question from @Chris Keeler. What do you think of Expertise Reanimator in Modern? Expertise plus break entering to reanimate cool stuff.
It has potential. It won a GP trial at Vancouver this weekend, and I think Michael Majors played it at the team event I believe he was at this weekend. So it's definitely something that people are working on, and we'll see if it actually has legs or not. But I think there's potential there to at least test it out.
All right. Last question from JDHD. Rather than Zendikar fetches in Amonkhet, what about Vivid Lands, or God forbid, both?
Oh man, Now, see, this, we actually talked about this last week. This could be, and I got this question actually in a DM. Luke sent this to me on. This could be one of those oversights where reverting back to the old rotation could have left us with something like this. I'm, if anything, I'm still on the side of if we were to see Zendikar fetch lands, they would be in October, if at all. I'm just hoping that's the case.
So do the full art land reveals change your opinion on Zendikar fetches in any way for Amonkhet?
No.
Now that we know they're in the main set in addition to being the promo?
Not really.
Yeah, not especially. I don't know. Vivid Lands, I guess. Predicting uncommon land cycles is pretty tough because they could theoretically just put anyone they wanted in there. Flavor wise, I don't know if it really fits. An interesting idea would be the temples, since that kind of lines up with gods and stuff. So in those, there might be an argument that those would be fine as uncommons. Power level. I mean,
talking about you want the same storyline, might as well just throw in the same cards as the arrows too. Temples. I mean, I think at least the Vivid Lands, and you could do like a reflecting pool. Reflecting pool could actually make sense. Like you could kind of frame it. It's in the middle of the desert, and you see a pool, and it's reflected off the sand. Kind of mirage type thing.
Did you say desert wasteland reprint? Yeah.
Or literal desert reprint.
Literally desert.
Dust Bowl. There's so many desert themed lands.
But they're all land destruction that Wizards probably won't give up.
No, but we could get the reflecting pool. Hey, Vivid Lands and reflecting pool was it obviously was good enough to win Gabriel and Nassif some games.
All right. Fish mail for both of you on the way out the door. Do you think Devotion will come back? Like, is that the god really mechanic?
I hope not.
No way.
No, okay.
Really?
Like, we get it, Seth. You want Theros back. We should just make it Theros, reskin it as Egyptian. It's like a a Hearthstone patch.
Hey, you you were the one that was saying Gideon's gonna die just like Elspeth. So
Oh,
don't
yeah,
do
that's
that.
true.
That's
That's
their
true.
storytelling. They can't get innovative with that. But
Hey, imagine if the Planeswalker version of Gideon was Gideon, ally of Zendikar.
On Amonkhet.
Yeah. But it's the Planeswalker's version, so it's okay.
his +0 is put fetch lands in the set.
Oh my goodness. I think that's a great place to end the podcast. So thanks everyone for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed the new segment, and hopefully we could keep doing that going forward. A lot of great topics. Really pumped for Amonkhet. It's going to be great, I think. I think I said it last week. I'm like really excited. I think this is going to be a block to remember. I hope. Really hoping. Don't mess this up. Okay. That's going to do it here for the MTG Goldfish podcast. We will see you all next week.